Plan the U.S. federal government should provide a net protected basic income advantage once inequality. Domestic poverty is surging, fueling inequality that primes society for collapse. May 23, the U.S. economic employers inequality deepening getting diversity over 40 stating. Large systems of household income within the top 50 years, by unequal distribution of low mobility, for gaps of COVID, into the inequality, recession, loss of money, gap, social crisis, including growing conflict, tribalization, crime, gun wealth, gap in chronic maladies. The welfare state systematically traps the most vulnerable in poverty and insecurity. Group of 22, poverty figures and accurate soups, after government government 65% of the America's work policy, government works equal to health care, complexity burden, governments are guided for college workers, parasitic government timing, during policy identification, encourage organism, the problems of exceedance, government, ecology, therapy, for better, countries is the most complicated welfare state, massive unemployment, bolsters inequality, and economic insecurity. Senate 17, non-employees alone, 9 million jobs in the sector of employment benefits arise not of the way security, never knowing if the government will fill that hole that uses jobs like for non-employees, safety, just ability to handle, jump through hoops, resistance, bureaucracy, effective life, PPA, workers, for maximum flexibility, automation, crops and cycles, and globalization make massive inequality, corporate capture, and slow growth inevitable. The plan solves 18819, automation, globalization, eliminates workers, deals with 1,000 right, then 39% of jobs, low 73 million effective labor, more rigid features, fueling of full languages, and maintenance, essential job creation, be a compensating given by re-entry, automation, drive inequality, highs, and years, classification, cooperation, critical societal functions, process, coordinating politicians, shows the politicians, course, inequality increases, corruption, governments turn their back, taxes, deregulating industries, limiting environmental rights, social security, cycle work corruption, increase more inequality, not elite, include elite, repeal the threat of social violence, reduce star rates, low growth, also limiting education, even capital inequality is a primary factor, instability, population, freedom, make up strong reactions, automation, jeopardize growth, slow growth, cause extinction, brands 21, slow growth makes it hard to keep public habit leaders, desperate gap reaches make nationalism across U.S. economic source, and imperial expansion of Russia, religious love and occupy, military abuses, little put in red in front secretaries of expansion, are deeming interventions, paths through Wisconsin, inequality causes civil war, attrition, 23, wages declines due to administration, illegal production, social support, and drivers, disability, terrorism, civil war, radicalization, riot, terrorists, the right for leadership is not near explosive growth, balance shift, regime implode, left right single sparking that of election, power law, normal steps of work, political equations, ultimately increase both high levels of radicalization, curving slow unity, 2020, security, economic, serious violence, inequality, field instability, kills societal resilience to transnational existential threats, section 23, Americans withdrawn to support elites, breeding counter elites who withdraw, who overthrow alternatives to reforms that rebalance social system, and also shows that exit of crisis 75% revolutions of war associated with the state, very few cases societies navigated social disaster, come get assassinated, at least over in America, as well being turbulent period of resilience to climate change, pandemics, depressions, conflict, immigration. Countries that did prefer inequality more resilient. 10,000 years of data point towards collapse. 300 society 10,000 years doesn't have variables to stability, administration, economic fortune, decline of labor production, and society produces a great human crisis. So payment, top heavy, good institution, progressive era, growth, equitably or something. Consequence of event in the history database, it is economy so lucrative that will require revolution on a president and honor roll or requires sacrifice. Use civil war goes global nuclear like in 17 civil war ended America, China, Russia, Korea, Iran, destroy wars in the world, the news for all the unity among affluent. You think one of security extremists that lead to war guarantees escalation in every hotspot. French 20 the moment U.S. split guarantees made nothing. Allies would have lived on U.S. Russia and China use golden years weapons capabilities immediately. China completely Taiwan. Russia slow Baltics, Ukraine, Latvia, and Lithuania 72 hours into which with Germany, Briam, trade crash, Japan announced nuclear Soka followed suit, runaway Polish region in China. Battle nuclear bases with Taiwan, Iran, certain nuclear representative production, domestic insurgency fragments, the U.S. collapsing state capacity and upholding nuclear groups that remained in the military extinction. March 22, the U.S. Texas breaking the militias, inflated forces and party contemporary, use free for all FBI, DHS, and suspicion movements, armed carbon, real disability, state goals of everything over and imposing force was in one civilian rep crush, intel gathering, influential great strengths of military reason for failed to pound center rock, military to find effectiveness against insurgencies, the legitimacy of force greater than ever, violence, build upon insurgencies, harness narrative and characters, different small shoppers, exacerbate crises, killing people, not solving against arresting, guarantee more victims of geography, possibility, massive need, true reason not ever have, extinction, Nair 23, use violence, messengers, nuclear terrorism, ideology, ultimate instigated insurgencies, news collapse, civilization, believe modernity, copy, RC, goose, nuclear war, finally solvency. The plan solves this revenue positive, overwhelming statistical and empirical evidence is African 22, growing evidence shows income statistical evidence which available every person amount of evidence shows inequality correlates power reduction and incarceration, which possibly shows an increase in revenue causes savings on assisted data shows parts of find employment study found in the expansion study shows as much revenues cost all objections to basic income have been comprehensively refuted by empirical studies career 20 objections convenes in empirical evidence refuting practice observations sample studies new studies recent down to the across the US studies are results are such concepts that refute short-term was ignore started evidence to the BI boost economics and multiple effects and substantial improvements of EU reduces savings in every in case CPA works out at all thread. The elimination of duplicative program shields the link of basic income wouldn't trade off for discrete realms of the welfare state. Also 19 welfare 3% non-contributing means sensitive programs such as beating BS schemes. It doesn't complement partly replace not all full subsidy to replace contribute to your benefits. Income during the services not trying to transfer cash. Social programs that are parts of welfare differ. Any excess trade-offs would be financed by programs that would be assholes better request. 19 programs that are under BI and everybody safe for ATC, CGC's hand, SNAP, disability, UI, cost non-transfer expenditures, tax increases, fiat good, policy applicants. Give debaters the knowledge and skills to challenge micro-political structures outside of debate. Commonly 13 rules for organization to threat authority in future encourages to experiment the future large actions, consultation of students, explore proposals to be supposed practices, pose unfriendly questions, activities, primary scoring, role performances, one, provisional layer, rethink connections, urgent practices, strong corporations, reductive organized medical care, experiments for practices, adventure, minor moments, social perception, extend time horizon, minor role experiments, generate energy to enter new modes, the eyes around us, we can actually keep perception of feeling, and beliefs we can more refined in the trends, so you can find power managers, leaders, union officials, more literature, institutional pressures that propel these constituencies forward, predictable debates over chaotic proposals, develop detailed advocacy and research skills, having 2K, a debate provides separation for human nature, the capacity to employ strategies for acting, research accommodations, and capital improvement, to the understanding without the guidance of a topic, how many students who need research, legalization, and advocacy, human section of the rocket, but debate, person to put his restoration beyond the frontiers to make it, good advocacy made it to progress, not engage in research, not invalidate actual research, changes options, the USM teaching, should spread activism, intelligence, used to rally people in supporting members' research, can reinforce all opinions to discovering new people, question their assumptions, formulating more informed opinion, students express concern towards them after researching, students be a strong political relations, meeting, debate, research, and personal advocacy, researching about self-directed current advocates, debaters learn both sides so they can defend their position against attack, learn the nature of proposals, help debaters turn their stance, we have positions. Debaters is an effective social critics of that. Treating debate is anything more than a game. Making 97 debaters should understand the self as social critics of the papers of practice policies. People have policy making position all of us go with criticism, not a leader, official criticism, policy when articulated by the official or another debate is not until exclusion of what is not neither. Implicit the agenda directly discussed the U.S. The two debaters are far removed from the formal agenda deliberation and assumes analogy. Traditional inherency burdens remain the plan to be in the sense that current attitudes are stressing these debate making debate an excellent debate for decades. Debaters seem to be out of to produce their logic and just students are talking about policies not making policy metaphor useful. It orients debaters to social critics without suggestion debaters on the game. Consequentialism is good, we only fail the plain text. And any other richer makes advocacy skills possible. It's Act 21. In demand, political theories are also viable. No theory of automatic wants government ideas have to be introduced studies that apply to policies ideas because so many government practices do not fulfill the idea of bad government is about ideas, but must be conscious theories for ideas theories over life and death policies share value system empirical absolutely also ways to think that the to achieve these goals of the policies maybe debated with that underlying ideology. The reason for that is not ideology, but we need works that immediately affect and help us being apart from however they just policy different according to the only put it against fully and there's no way to predict why they work all the causes the same where what is the evidence?
I want to start with the context. What does it mean to be in debt to protect basic income?
It basically means that banks, i.e. the things that people are in debt to, cannot seize the basic income. So when people receive $1,000 a month, banks cannot come and take that from them. Of course, they can voluntarily pay it if they want.
Are banks in from debt that people are taking from close to
All debt. Debtors cannot, or I guess creditors cannot seize the basic income payments to pay off debt. Banks just can.
I want to talk about Section 23 evidence. You say a single spark sets everything ablaze. You may be starting to talk why conflict happens in the status quo. Why has that not been enough to trigger that?
Well, the argument is that conflicts will start more in the future. Turchin says that it's likely to explode during the 2020s. We think that sure they have been small movements now, but by a single spark, of course, he means like larger insurrections.
Wait, what is the distinction between how do the larger insurrections not trigger? Like, why did January 6th not trigger the association?
Well, because currently people are more radicalized than they were in January 6th. Turchin does a study and a model which finds that the radicalization curve starts to grow after 2010 and then explodes during the 2020s. January 6th was an example of what we have outlined. We think that those movements will grow in the future and then cause
What is
explosion.
the distinction between January 6th and a radical movement that happens now? Why is this one?
Yeah, there's two distinctions. The first one is the amount of radicalism broadly. We think that one sort of violent event, how much radicalism? Well, we think it's increasing and that it's dangerously high. We don't know like a specific number of radicals in the U.S.
I guess that makes sense. I want to talk about automation. How does it depend on automation?
Well, the plan allows people to no longer be afraid of losing their jobs. So basically, when people receive a basic income, the impacts of automation are lessened because the impact of automation is that people lose their jobs to AI and then they're entrenched in debilitating inequality.
How do giving people a basic income then stop large CEO companies from stuff like climate?
The argument is not that a basic income stops jobs from getting automated, but that it stops inequality caused by automation.
Wait, so automation is
When automation happens, AI, etc., take people's jobs, they lose them, and then they're entrenched in inequality because they no longer have a job.
that makes sense.
Basic income
In
solves that.
March 22 evidence, you said that the U.S. has collapsed state capacity in empowering nuclear guerrilla groups. What nuclear guerrilla groups in most of going to call?
Yeah, it says that general groups of terrorists, which the NARA card substantiates, could have like just broad, higher amounts of following. It also says that there are various like secessionist movements within the U.S. that might have more
Yeah,
power.
when you said domestic insurgency fragments the U.S., are the nuclear guerrilla groups within the U.S. or is it?
I mean, they're not nuclear now, but there are like currently terrorists and people who could get. Sorry?
How do they become nuclear?
They could take over things like nuclear sites. The NARA card and the March card both say that they've been caught with fissile nuclear material and that they have access and want to wage it. I got it.
Give me a second. Okay.
That's later.
Yep.
Blackness complicates the ethical economy operating as the indicator of productivity. The 26 year produces an unpayable debt for black and Indian communities. That's just level 22. Blackness equals capacity to the capital of legalized surgery, both for the capital of to produce well months, we crime to be black and produce for all whites and the wealth they extract from you. Is it possible to exist in a world without this double assurance that took everything away, remains in everything taken? This is not a fair pass. This is an unpayable debt. Slave labor is the flesh and blood of capital because labor is the transference of which composes flesh and blood that components of everything possible and existing. The blackness operates as an economic indicator. It is a state's decision to exclude and incarcerate Christians of capital should not take this operation of blackness into account. I find capital as a totality with procedures, its inner and outer layers. The one is to be under an imagination or world in which the white state helps and marginalized folks is a historical dream producing liberal multicultural fantasies. That's the same colonialism. That's November 13. Southern regimes or representation, ableism, train, argumentary revolutions, power representation, indigenous people functions, capital reforms, organization, high field, United States, economic representation of indigenous people as a result in historical fixement of engineering and religion, which the legitimacy of the settler state is regulated in the settler state, events of inventions of engineering, even as it eliminates indigenous subjects, that states and communities try to self-governance about the indigenous people, images of engineering, maybe celebrating the settler states of the use of liberal multiculturalism as crucial act of development, and the eventually the nation's force of valorization and engineering, and then saying how this force would never respond to improved access to local cultural and economic rights. UBI is a dead chart that reinforces extraction inherent to racial capitalism, white workers' ability to refuse labor, spreading on stealing black wealth through fines, arrests, and police ordinances. That's 2021. Federalism labor markets as the engine of economic inequality, ignores racial capitalism's techniques of targeted extraction. UBI's appeal to enable a refusal of the labor market places under faith in consumer markets. Income can be forcibly removed before it can be used through debt collection. The racial construction and economic inequality lies at the intersection between anti-black policing and punishment with eventually economic spaces of labor, housing, credit markets, racialized economic extraction, build on a vicious cycle of fines and fees by traffic stops, licenses, suspensions, and arrests, and debt of incarceration. A multi-state survey found an average of 13,607 in criminal legal debt, more than the entire annual revenue of UBI. This mitigates UBI's ability to facilitate work refusal because UBI devoured by debt no longer be available to meet basic needs without a wage, producing debt of residence by UBI precisely because the nation losing a basic income inside of the jail. UBI would provide a law preparation to stratify fiscal substitutions with state and local criminal legal systems able to selectively capture national basic income payments. This would entrench racial labor stratification by creating a racially differentiated capacity to refuse work. What is the form of rationalist economics and poses the question of inequalities that economic profit, not social, and economics cannot create groups and only link and still determines its third level ratio of here the interior only as marks this habit that's root 16. Economics are trying to consideration of self and the right from economics and something how lands owned by sellers wealth and derived from the economics and charge questions around scarce needs or bridge between each time to economics for dispossessions out there is our experience value of the residential for social stops and just society contribute to sellers only and economic worth. This makes sellers the subject of the agency and nature as an object of class that agency people are sellers without agency or life economics or civil as a notion of entity and leading to not approved in their agency for economic agents guided by market mechanisms seller economics and not generating responses to evaluate intention economic relations to land political economy consumer business settler structures prevents market as a provider of improvement to land not to wealthy condition wealth is like for indigenous bodies of certain settler classes to land and different wealthy condition and with literal wealth left to the true wealthy as land and financial increase. Wealthy and FBA sort of by distance and indigenous people, the economic definition of wealth, economic control is propagates the seller with ideology and technology at their level of richer current definition. Supersedes not religion, land, religion, academic, and social economics. Alternatives is politics or refusal is not just a no, but a generic practice that concedes it otherwise. World's unacknowledged, unquestioned. Everything must go category of human necessities, lacking just death, property, wife, or just societal motives. You should be willing to embrace resurrection as means internalized without back and self-creating ground moments of resistance. That's King 17. Deeply refusal, lacking response, separation from community of vast levels here, deeply refusal, abolitionist skepticism, and proper masculine, anti-colonial churches, and everything. Native black man, white man, participating community of asset, including self-fear from in terms of debate, refusal, and around of civil and collegial discourse, and critical to focus on violence, refusal, and skepticism, or motivation that are uncooperative, decolonial refusal, and outright rejection of post-humanist county and black abolitionists recognize that it's being wished conceived to generate because it says for post-terms of vacation for interrogating Western human rights themselves to self-returning system of arrest and the process of recursion over human produce blackness and some other interests men and attracting internal epistemic crises mentions model one of black states in the world which can human discourse of kind of performance and challenge to moves of protocol refusal response to how perverse it is to ask black indigenous black people to be human black and indigenous people have never been fully folded into the category of human modes of refusal extended theoretical methodological trade ensuring that knowledge reduction refusal is not just no but a redirection of ideas otherwise out of knowledge refusal requires knowledge as productive refusal Westwood drop knowledge or back on itself set of knowledge as neutral knowledge without horizon reject their hypothetical association scenarios existential risk framing is not universal or objective but it's deeply rooted in white genocide as visual charge of 20 literally administration represents the future white responses community governance threats negate oppressance exploit particularly ways as being a critical validation of marginal data modeling processes such as for shaping how it's understood in forms of governance discourse are rooted in Europe and imperialism genocide and anti-blackness the words like in those attributed agency and ethical status and capable of facing global threats and contribute to the setting as essential risk or fight for is the global options made practice the bypass knowledge smuggles and their objectives into objectively white and white famous and Western government and professional organizations their minds and impression and all of that logic concerning universal human braille in which global pollution avoiding constant threat and the frame of contractors and for externality and conflicts and cautionary tales such as global power global disasters discusses stress anxiety loss of white identity possessions including the high fear of criminal towards the institution of communication assertions with rational life and civilization which is your political subject and should be as wrong as civilization is solid all to Western global this is consolidate white domination through instrumentalizing or limiting five parties to about access to risk for very basic governance and interstate community by colonization undermines sovereignty by popular inequality and not priority with community as I say compared to other levels in the livable land such as the region and environmental instrumentalization contributing to future regeneration the white advantage which one part of the planet is transformed into non-white reflect the global interest of racial factors into the planet is force of white alcohol engineers class and fear of being mutually state force upon others. Consequenceless justifications of simultaneously self-justifying and self-defeating moral focusing on people resulting in the direction of mass atrocities, all of which make only make global destruction more likely. That's not 18. What does evils make society commit with it? It believes it faces greater evil with its own destruction and is a lesser evil justification was piercing and non-destructive condition of individual proportionality is like
The Zats card, UBI is a debt trap. When you see Cross was explicit that people cannot, take the UBI in order to pay off debt. What is it?
Explicit that banks can't take UBI to take out debt, which is not contextual response to this.
We said
That's
nobody
specific. This is how sewage communities communities and extract values. As evidence is not saying that the creditors are able to take UBI after. It's saying that the municipal lender means that the police go into
No,
communities.
it literally says families found an average of 13K in criminal legal debt more than the entire annual value of UBI. This would negate the UBI's ability to facilitate
Racial
work.
capitalism means that whenever police go into communities, they then use things like excessive fining and arrest warrants as a means to overtax communities, which is seen in places like
Wait, I don't think this says this. This card just says that people will take the UBI in order to pay off debt. We banned that as a
It talks about a vicious cycle of fines and fees through things like traffic stops, license suspensions, arrests, and debt incarceration, which is
Arrests? Where does it say arrest? Oh. Okay, wait. How is racial profiling related to that?
That is like literally the link to what I see because they don't have an analytic to understand the ways in which municipal plunder, i.e. when police go into communities like Ferguson to exploit wealth. They don't have an
Wait, so
analytic
is
or
the argument that like
investigation
police
for
are
how
gonna come and take
alcohol
people's
is
basic income? Is the argument that like police are gonna come and take people's basic income?
Like on one level it is that police are going to take away people's basic income, which moves up the research you're going to go for, but it's also that giving a basic income
Do you have, like-
increases municipal funding, which increases revenue for the police.
Do you have like an example of police ever taking away like a government mandated benefit?
Like that happens in Ferguson in the sense where we think that any sort of
So, like,
police
police, like, come to
residence
people's houses and
is
take
taken away is systematically extracted by the police.
And when you get up and say that it's a link to the stats quo, I want to make clear right now, this stats card is making a claim that distributing.
We're not gonna say that, we're gonna say the opposite. But okay, the alternative, can you explain, like, does the alternative fiat something? Is it just in this round?
Yeah, so I think first off, the alternative is to refuse the money CD, which we think probably results in the links, but it's also generative, like King talks about the ways in which alternative epistemologies can be formed. We think
What are those
like
alternatives?
material examples such as like the Mississippi Freedom Schools, wherein like Black and Indigenous scholars decided to pursue
Does voting negative cause those movements to occur?
Nobody knows what fiat constructor says that currently grammars are British i.e. we think that white communists and British because the grammars are used in spaces like today. The key evidence is saying that we should refuse that in favor of pushing revealing the knowledge that is on the
Okay, so voting neg affirms that those movements are good and like tries to start them in debate.
Well,
But it doesn't
it affirms that things are good. It also says that we should refuse the money seed because we identify the money seed as epistemically violent.
refusal. I mean, yeah, sure. But that's fine. What is rationalist economics?
Rationalist economics is what we have described the AF as, i.e. we think the positive inequality is something that exists only due to economic reasons, but we have said that exists due to social reasons.
Okay.
Okay. We can take. Okay, sorry. Okay. Everything else. Okay, stop at 7:15.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Actually, not sending it. really about it. Panel. You want to do it? Okay, cool. It's just case K. Cases drop civil war causes extinction, collapses deterrence, and deterrence is empowering terrorists, drawing in other great powers, causes nuclear missile explodes every hotspot that's marked church and near the plan solves reverses inequality, which is the root cause that's 20C, that's 20C church and K. Framework, only evaluate plan desirability. That requires defending link uniqueness and material alternative solvency. 1, fairness. It's possible to have a prepared defense of every word and idea in the 1AC. Infinite negative critiques, spiral to skewed peppermint. It's also unpredictable. The resolution calls for debate over whether an example of the resolution should occur. Emerson, 3 topic hesitation between the act of the U.S. verb should or its action and phrases. Although it's about whether something else to occur after of research for action. You propose. Second is clash, unpredictability, ensures targeted research is futile. That's traitors. Their advocacy and their critique because we can never test their advocacy. Fiat is good. 1 rule, experimentation, policy experiments. Give debaters the knowledge and skills to challenge existing micro-political structures. Regardless of profession, the process of finding optimal action is applied to personal activism, which disrupts the current political order. That's what I see commonly. Second is critical thinking. Fiat enables debaters to process controversy from both sides, which reveals nuance and diffuses inertia and dogmatism while inspiring action outside debate. That's debate. And we give one individual arguments of change mind domain. 20. The arguments are not difficult to efficient to change mind. People look at well, you're discrediting the source arguments and trigger motivated reasoning. 1. Rejection without engaging their content with their content. The argumentation is amazing to express and cement and then come closer to the truth. People gravitate towards epistemic goals, conversations like-minded people reinforce beliefs independently. The negatives will hold by assuming that voting neg solves movements, which proves that they link back to every form of argument. Now, perm do both. Either the old fails or the permutation shields, or the perm is best. UBIs or keto line states towards local desires, restores social energy and resources for radical political change. Line 23. Counter tables redistribution without biopower conditions supports radical political economic change, but not compatible with local the global capitalism. UBI derive post-capitalist economies we work out. We see and interact with the state transfers knowledge and also litigation who fight bargaining by labor by for labor by strike fund. We are taking of long-standing competence over environment and strategic developments and enrich collectivism shape social change. Group the last 2 cards. Extinction outweighs 1 endpoint. Extinction is the most terminal form of all violence. Any chance that people drive some value to life means you're auto-av even if they win. Ontology. Second is agency alternative metrics. Devalue self-determination. Trivialize billions who have struggled to survive. 3 is suffering. It's incredibly painful. Disparately impacts vulnerable populations via starvation and disease. Both our cards are about broad rhetoric, which doesn't assume that dropped arguments are true in debate, and we don't believe that the planet happens, or that our scenarios are capital T true. We've merely defended it as a heuristic in this debate. That's what I see McGee. It's also not safe. So if our impacts are true, debating extinction erupts are good. First in 18 students have less experience than 86 students who were born after the Cold War. The majority do not understand weapons are their power, the role in the international order, how many weapons exist, program issues, and other reasons. The possibility of launch is assumed that today's public doesn't care about issues that weapons and deterrence because it rarely affects lives directly. If they had a knowledge that could change educating students on weapons that could have long-term effects, creating a public engaged and motivated to hold leaders accountable for policy that reduces the risk of nuclear war. The studies are the next aspect could be useful preparation, learning about nuclear weapons that have a impact and inspire them to dedicate themselves to solving problems. Now, the first link was the fiat link was answered above. The inherent demands of the plan be utopian and impossible in the status quo, which means that obviously we do not believe that it happens. That's McGee. That's link does not assume that a basic income is debt protection, which means that even if people are in debt, even people in debt can receive a basic income without having it garnished, and regardless of the amount of people, the amount of debt or fines that people will receive, they can still refuse to pay in favor of spending it on their own needs. That's when I see lying now. Otherwise, it's a link of omission. But the out taxes for progressive, meaning that people with lower income would receive more money than they put in. That's when I see Keeley and Greenwell. Also, the when I see welfare trade-off card. Now the debt link. Now broadly, dwelling in debt makes collective political the demand fail. Wozniak at 17. I cast no defer on the need for refusal, but ask if it is sufficient for that these are implied other than exclusive demands. Agile comfortable refusal needs to be situated in a particular context. But if facilitate context against articulated aspect and produce that demands emerge from information change perceptions they create collective observation and learning and research critical analysis of hiding the different imaginaries of the future and gender that play crucial role in influencing subjectivity. Utopia demands of social political landscapes of the difference between abstract and concrete utopia demands of utopias are credible without a sufficient regard to present conditions that could render the possible concrete utopias already developed in societies that does not ignore the present mostly cognitive and present potential that might or might not produce different futures. The utopia demands are in the distinction in the status quo. On the other hand, their mode of affirmation they function as a provocation towards alternatives. The latter function is to redirect attention that energy towards open future demands and then make political desires towards imagination and serve as models to mobilize and organize movements that know into the precedent not only opens up the possibility of a yes and a different future, it is altered by its relation to the
yes, the active aspect of distancing from the status quo that might be enabled is a different one, paired with an attachment to a potential alternative. It is the combination that packs the punch functionally optimate. The utopia demands should be granted actually existing tendencies which qualifies the statement which will think utopia demands for dead autonomy, create from a dead life that distance from dead realities allows us to see in a new light. Demands for dead autonomy only exerts its performance and the force with efficacy if it is a collective balance of social changes bad carbon. 3 activists wins in average individual arenas, but responses remain on terms of understanding strategies of change of consequences such as factualization to interpretation and perspective or strategy as antagonists as adversarial strategies have reached diminishing returns. Haptic ensures institutional capture. Imagination of the underground is indebted to the violence inside. The love 15 one and Hardy call for the refusal to have to end morality. Imagination of that outside is indebted to the inside one and Hardy do not describe the underground and it's important to consider the limits of refusal as objectification. That strategy critique is a way of acknowledging one's institutional position as normativity made difficult to transfer implication in the violence of knowledge production undertaking work will not allow escape into a different relation to our objects because we are its instantiation to our own implication of existing structures in the form of violence and the rationality link. The F is a decommitment from rationality. It does not have a theory for why inequality actually happens. It just says that giving people more money would solve it and that inequality is bad. The F gives people money regardless of their identity and does not presume what people will do with their money, which means that it does not prescribe any particular piece of action. Now instinctive libidinal reason confuses habit with instinctiveness. 15. Racism is not an integral part of the psyche and it is a social construct. Any effort to comprehend racism by a prior collective unconscious is due to fail for not denies that delusions are permanent, that our habits acquired from social impositions while they constitute collective unconscious of many that are not universal. Like confuses habit with instinct that racism cannot be solved at a psychological level. It is not individual, it is social. Now the alt fails. It defers violence in favor of endless abstract thought that never challenges material violence. True demand political theories are falsifiable. Anything else that comes to violence to bias and inertia regardless of their initial intentions. That's when he sees act for closing institutions is a dead end. To solve material violence refusal relies on a flawed inside-outside binary that naturalizes racism. 20. There are 2 categories in a critical relationship. The first is inside and service role and call of the institution. The second going outside the refine the structure as inevitable. The significance of institutional critique, laying a track between the critique and material conditions. How to find escape in the field if it determines from where one begins. That movement is mirror binary possibilities of reform versus revolution, progress versus Russia, going out operating on one border strip the institution. Distributed play cannot deactivate power. Power is dynamic and anticipates you without a sustainable collective base that requires a normativity. According 17, distributed play assume power can be deactivated and subject becomes a governmental. Thus, does not take into account colonial apparatuses, dynamic reinvents itself. It's difficult to imagine this granted in an empirical arena. While distributed power are part of existing relations theories and unspoken such that this can accept relations. Distributed power does not entail the backdrop of shared identity. This amendment to collective mobilization assumes the effectivity of individuation, a shortcoming strategically and normativity. It is not conventional argument and not for a single empirical example. Armed resistance to the state bills of war 16. What tactics work to secure a better world in America than ever? In opposition against the state, FAQ rally as many as the Bolsheviks are still left in a world of F-15s, drones, and bombs. This is a 1950s Cuba tech. Lowers the odds of armed political revolution to 0. This isn't fatalism. There is also political action. Seriously, none of us are ever going to take barricades in an era of the NSA and military robots. As hard that we could have no violence. The door past the bomb conversation undertaken to no political end. Destitute power totalizes and demobilizes agency chamberlain. 16. From a government's perspective, our political agency increases our government's constitutionalized the framework ways, right with rigid definitions of action and rendered resistance impossible. He calls for the destitute power. He feels outline what that may look like. Our government's create inescapable historical determinism concentrates on negative affects rather than self-forming life-affirming resistance.
Okay, let me send that.
Because the reason why is because people aren't forced to work. They're not like compelled by things like poverty in order to have to engage the state and like be able to
live, we think that like the vast majority of exploitation is part of labor. Certainly there are other causes, but we think that one of the primary reasons for why people experience racism is because they're forced to work.
I guess we can go on specifically to the facts about debt. You said, I think that you said, like, people wouldn't have to pay.
People would not have to pay things like fines or those things because they're classified as debt. They would be because the UBI is debt protected. It means that they would.
When they're arrested.
Well, they don't have to pay fines out of the UBI,
What
which is the
happens when
argument.
a black person is arrested and they don't pay a fine? Like, what do you mean?
I mean,
How is
what do you
that
mean? Like, what happens when they're arrested? I guess like they would be arrested. I don't like. You're gonna have to be more specific.
How does the act ensure that the income distributed via the land is not extracted via things like fines?
Yeah, because it is literally debt protected. If police try to take it away, they will be arrested because it is illegal to take away debt protected funds. Yeah.
The police will be
It's
arrested.
illegal for people, for creditors, i.e. the police, to take the basic income to pay off debt, such as fines.
The 1AC line card says that it would require strong debt protections. It says that it would be enforced by a legal regime. We think that most laws are enforced by the threat of being arrested or fines.
I guess, like, we talk a lot about utility and the Bosnian cards and right to alternative. I guess I'm confused about why the alternative does not also meet the definition that you laid out in terms of like concrete utopia.
Wait, are you asking why the 1 and C isn't concrete? It said, like, the 1 and C alternative card advocates
This
just
just
for
says that, like, it
refusal.
says that a utopian demand is good when it disinvests from the status quo and functions as an obligation towards an alternative.
Yeah, we think that your alternative is like basically non-existent. It doesn't advocate for anything specific. It just says that we should divert. No. It says both. So it says not only is disinvestment in the status quo required, it says that also we must advocate for a concrete political change.
So redirect attention and energies towards a living future. That sounds a lot like the alternative.
It does not. It doesn't sound anything like the alternative. The alternative does not redirect social energy. It just gets rid of it. The alternative does not advocate for anything. It doesn't.
That's the entire
like
thesis of the alt card. Why doesn't this also like apply to
it does not. It just gestures towards something vague. It has no defense of anything.
I got it.
It's going to be like a framework and debate. Topic Tracy will be 1 hour. So starting with the next topics now.
Okay.
Is everyone good?
They say case out ways, projection for ethical predisposition to consequentials, and extend Passanelli Mitchell here. A is universal. The third claim to be universal B should be seen as based on a project planetary homogenization as a form of psychological warfare. The assumption that the entire planet can under a single integer as part of some imperialism, colonized subjects are already undergoing microstations locally with their evacuation systems to usher violence under the umbrella of extinction when it threatens with arrival, which is the basis for the Euroscene. B is temporality. The ongoing violence of the present is always ignored for myth and future tragedy. You should arbitrarily shift your concerns in favor of the everyday ongoing violence under the Euroscene. Science and C is the white apocalypse system discovered. The scenario opinion. The white apocalypse system that moves their events are rooted in whiteness, Asian society. You see our data model is used to secure white security against bicultural liberation, figuring black and indigenous people as threat against white white life must be preserved. The hashtag all lives matter, excellent stories, undermines rigorous analysis of structural violence, and justifies policy strikes and assimilation, repression, and extermination of the perceived racial difference. Global catastrophe is an opportunity for the expansion of violence in government and social control. That's when Mitchell tried to explain. Large scale threats of future serving a hegemonic claim on moral origins that makes bodily violence and imperialism eligible, endlessly deferring its priority to an a future that will never come. The only process to influence the world about violence is the hegemonic suffering and structural violence across the globe cannot be any longer. Results 15. Large scale threats from where recently Germany because their bigger sales are creating their security skills and order money. Truly, so economic action because there's some political policy that can be suffering and very solution. This is the way for actual community and large scale universities. Those are the liberal institutions as a priority of the large scale majority because it's not secondary way to get people like these actually supposed to be present by getting the future member cannot resolve care when you get motions that don't the really should be consumed emergency or emergency there's already encounters are greatest of the political and people the public and social systems that right now is that much cannot be identified by consideration alongside them. So large scale future services such as large scale factors to make that the service for the electricity of body world reasoning as well as essentially people and provide for social state and social required who's going to be safe for alternatives are consistent ongoing and virtual alternatives will clearly be used to security of revolutionary responsibility that may service for the routine. They say that these future representations of the narratives of extinction are settled into innocence, marking the Germany by this repression and its repetition bullshit. Now that's value 16. Senators of the possible their institution, even though they seem likely as practice under foreign experience, the government is under politics and society can be seen as fancy for perception of conditional was rejected by the consent of the previous tried to settle their advisor way every paradox of their financial there's a double opposition and conversations on that they teach us that communities for charity what is important the average annihilation would be illusion about the indigenous population the extinction narratives ability to create opportunities for them as innocence is ideological but media by generating so far as extinction narratives so evaluation of biological regulation the function of differentiating our bias and other criminals. Go to the link proper. First, the historical dreaming. Based on for a durable suspending belief for the purpose of political skills, evaluating a non-existent desirable world is not what diamonds are as they can see that there should be more quality to other institutions that have yet to be demonstrated because of attitudinal barriers because the state would never operationalize the plan. That's not everything. The impact is corner the way impacts of a hypothetical plan reinforces plasticization where natives are reduced to malleable lexical like state to be experimented on for settlers with positive calculations. These experiments are ground after ground, rendering flesh and personal fungible, which authorizes the sensibility that energizes the external and gratuitous violence and turns game by reinforcing consistency. The whole is captive and the second by the simulation, including access to the agency necessary to operationalize the plan or skills. Most of the answers here were just cost back for the very bit, which we answered in the 1 hour, but their only answer was that our opportunity. Obviously, it is. You're not inherent. It's not. But also, it's such over. I didn't show. Are very close to each other. Possible mobilizations are probably not going to happen. Things that plan. So unlike the props, next, the carcerality league. UBI is an extension of legalized organized structure that begins with the most marginalized and criminalized black and Native people become functionalized in the process because it is always assumed that they owe the state for their lives. That's sad. This is why UBI does not exist in a vacuum, but it's a deep legacy of racialized violence that fetishizes the labor market after reduction of economic inequality instead of techniques of racialized capitalism. UBI assumes that access to money equals access to life and ignores that racialized
nothing but basically endless expropriation against racial capitalism. There's two impacts. First is racial segregation. Post-capitalism first incentivized to increase the extraction of wealth from communities because there's actually more money available. This should bring up the fiscal argument because that's not specific as to how UBI actually makes these funds worse because it literally just feeds extra money into their budget. The second is sacrifice. They create epistemology of sacrifice that allows for non-black and non-indigenous people to spit about all UBI policies that only hear themselves through lines against black and indigenous people. This is a research project because it proves the ways in which our politics operate, i.e. they're willing to sacrifice black and indigenous people in all those safe spaces like debate. They usually assume that those people in the stakes are higher. But even if they think it's way the outward that people they export them and plus like terrible and racist ways. We all know the leads are there. We all know what the leads are going to go for us. We're going to fly this year because I know it seems intuitive that they're to answer this, but process want to see mess it up for them. They do not represent the municipal under, i.e. their debt pressures are only in the context of being able to protect people from private credit agencies and banks, which is not what our evidence is talking about. It's not specific in the ways that police go into these communities and extract wealth from them, but they receive busy income, not through private credit agencies, not through private credit agencies, but through excessive money and rest warrants. This is our direct word. This is our entire point that shows evidence about my debt, about debt, the way that they consume debt is something that can only be paid back and protected from it, from debt itself is unpayable, and it's only that excess doesn't always present reality for black and indigenous folk. I'm going to make this as your private creditors are not the same thing as police. Their evidence is not distinguished as such, but they cannot go for plain false argument. The only argument that they don't the only other argument that they don't is that we do not have to pay fines. Obviously, they do have to pay fines, and these learning means that they do not pay the fine, they're then arrested and subjugated to the carceral system, which is probably that and violent. The Calvert Ravens, they are leading to balances from social change. There's no use here that cross-professional levels and everything else. There's not technicalities. There's definitely not only the third leg of the antagonism, like Westwood's moral man about impending civil wars and misnomer that disrupt the act of race war, actually making domestic disturbances, and as other states take populism and racist for white economic society is predicated on the loss of sovereignty, the call to make America great again, especially animated by racial parties, large national superfly outsourced immigrant labor are not victims of the economic security, but the overgrowth of a white racist world order. The terrorism that police tradition describes is simply an extension of racial fear. I.e. January 6th was not precipitated by the experience of inequality amongst white workers, but a desire to secure the home front from racial and sexual contamination. It's not only means the mystifies the root cause of conflict, which makes escalation inevitable, it also becomes external lessons for heterosurgery. Think of the ones tradition that they see the terrorists become left and right wing. This is precisely the rationale that was used to call people terrorists. It means that the outcome to call to discipline abolitionists and decolonial movements by telling them to fall in line with civil society because they think race status equals as the passage of UBI. This provides moral and economic use to the police and the money distributed through UBI as a plunder by police departments to boost their own funding, while departments feel emboldened to criminalize insurgency in the name of preventing terrorism to the war. There, for a reference, next year's argument, they say psychosis, whenever rats like analytic theory and power box into the silver card here. That's not very hard here when it's functionally conceded. Friend, this week of the analytical blackness is the economic indicator of productivity. Unable debt is one that you are expected to pay despite not creating racial capitalism subsidizes the value blackness by making it fungible to fuel economic production, no different from cotton tobacco and sugar cane. This fungibility comes from the sociality of modernity within most systems of capital and the traditional. That's the civil tradition. It is impossible for black people to exist in this world because of a double inherent to racial capitalism, or even their deathbed, or even on their deathbed, their participation is still expected. That is controlled with the money sees. Your nation's universal basic income produces an unpayable debt. The expectation for black people to willingly participate in the system based on capital accumulation only made possible through the claim of land and plantation. The alternative, go there now, vote next year, refuse to have the world of money sees, Bill Clinton, on research colonialism is coded into academia at every level from research to liberal science. Everything must go. Only a project of negativity can create new forms of epistemology beyond the center system by just mapping itself over the future. The alternative centers for relationship of research master class, which is good because it provides a theoretical opening beyond the university form, revealing what's the periphery by the hegemony of Western knowledge. That creates networks of academia, communication, and movements of decolonization, and black liberation, which is called by the Institute of the University of Mississippi Freedom School. There's only two raw arguments. First, as you state that our argument is not the state's ontologically bad, rather the state's institution of anti-black violence. Even if we do good deeds, or the state's argument is that we need to ask the question of why its existence is necessary in the first place, because that is what produces black to state and activity. Other arguments are about institutional power, institutional mobilization. Obviously not the alternative. Alternative versus the government makes things we do not going to have access to BI without it.
Good?
Let me drink water.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. You said that the state can be good in certain instances. What instances?
Well, I mean, like, I don't really know what instances, but I'm saying whenever you make arguments about why like bars, about the state is good, etc., we think that you can win, that there are certain instances.
Okay, how do we know if the state is good or bad?
What? I mean, if the state is good or bad?
Yeah, like you said, in certain instances is good, certain instances is bad.
We have made arguments about why the state is good against anti-black and violence. Our entire point is that you can win arguments about why there is a possibility for the state to do something that like might have a net beneficial effect on society. But our argument is that even in that process, we think that the very existence of the state in the first place is problematic.
Okay, should minorities engage the state?
But
Effort.
we're not really making a percentage claim about whether or not we think a minority should engage the state. We made arguments as to why your organization of the state is definitely bad.
Why? Okay, sure. I guess, what does refusal do? What scholarship does it create?
Well, it says that one refusal when he sees scholarship, which we think is good. One of the reasons why that is epistemology, but when he sees violent, we think that is both good within this context of this fair because it's a verb of rejoinder, i.e., we wouldn't want to
Sure.
acting, which goes there. But then also, we think it is able to sort of reveal world which the proof of Western knowledge making, i.e., we have given examples like.
Okay. So you reveal Western world making. What does that do to stop material violence?
Well, our entire point is that the alternative cannot resolve material violence. The argument is that we need to think about the ways in which we research within the spaces of the representative.
Okay, so we think about how we research. What does that do for anything?
We think it does something because the ways in which we research implicate the ways in which we export politics out there. I.e., we are in this is why whenever you go for like framework arguments.
Okay, so is your argument that like we change research and so people get out of debate and then like start
Well, I mean, like, we're
combating
not
racism?
fiating that happening. We're just saying that it's us
No, but is that your argument for why the alt solves?
I'm trying to answer your question. We're saying that in the status quo, I think the app is bad and the research practices are bad. That means that when the app gets exported outside, we think it is exported in the most violent ways possible. We think that refusing the app in that way in favor of trying at least to create some new forms of politics.
Okay, sure. Why does the AF legitimize more extraction in black communities?
Well, it's not that you legitimize more extraction, it's like you literally create more extraction.
Why?
It's because you give a UBI, which then the police see that as a signal to then increase municipal authority.
Why?
Because the municipal, like exact evidence is being exact evidence is specific to when the UBI gets implemented, police see that as a signal to then go to those communities and extract more wealth.
Okay, so your argument is that they'll get robbed?
What?
Your argument is that they'll get robbed by the police?
That is literally how
Okay,
it is.
that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. I guess, why does winning fungibility is true matter for this debate?
Well, if we win fungibility is true, it takes all the elements you're going to try to go for it because the unpayable part is making an argument about why debt is not something that can just be repaid or be protected from, rather is a condition that exists for all black and indigenous people.
Why does that affect the AF or like how it's implemented?
What we think it affects
Sorry, what did you say?
What?
What did you say? Can you repeat the last?
I said it will affect the only terms you're trying to go for against us.
Okay.
On the part debate group, then one nation, get one debate, speaking on test competing ideologies that we're going to have to defend a scholarship that includes a epistemological foundation that reputation is ignorance of dealings to violent speakers to the reputation of separate virtues that we are both in nations that either as a speech versus the rulings or the rest of the alternate application is going to ground to the alternative descriptions one is the space and permutation analysis will with the affirmative evidence. There's no way our research process can be combined with services that's built with epistemological foundation and material implementation of the 20 can't be constructed especially in the way that they're hard from the twin CSUs that would link to it. Top level affirming an endorsement of their plan is synonymous with a continual death warrant for black and indigenous people, which terminally outweighs the affirmative, and that means you can't weigh the plan that politics of the UBI is in intervention that relies on municipal plundering and the seduction of black and native folks into carcerality and captivity, proven by the recognition of the politics of the app, which they tend to give away money and just speak up and the police think the app will always unpaid blackness in there. A project of UBI, the spoils of empire will always be redistributed with no regard to the legislative clearing the land, the plantation economy, which means the plantation cannot exist in a vacuum, and instead must be considered within the deep legacy of the unpayable debt that is still described to be reveals how white political church has moved to the public sphere to train debaters to enact violence through law of negative refuse politics predicated on digital extraction and expropriation from black and Native people. The debate is a question of research practices, which in this round is the political grammar of the 1AC. If we're winning anything, you should be really suspicious of the Afro-Pac claims, because it not only proves that it result in material violence, but it also calls into question the very vocabulary they use to understand violence in the first place, which means if they can even win that Afro-Pacs are true, but still lose the debate because they reproduce blackness into a position of captivity. The counter-interpretation said the 1AC should be an object of study, the role of the negative should be to disprove the scholarship produced by that object, specifically intrinsic to the evidence consultancy. One refuse to value the affirmative as if it's coherent through genocidal intentions, white human themselves deploys itself as rhetorical tools to establish the president as a normal facet of life, to necessitating horizons of death for black folk claims on the subject's marginalized life to spiritual death by sanitizing racist rhetoric and the 1AC and substituting it with an extinction impact even the aspect save us from extinction. We should scenario planner debate over hypotheticals if it for this violent modes of communication that produce bad activists. Remember the way we talk about policy making in here is exported out there, which means any race of the link argument is that enough to pull the trigger and vote nay. There's sanitization establishes to their moral and justification behind policy making, which is bad. The race of complicity violent politics that what is the distinction between the left and the right, and obscures how anti-black construction is the state in the first place, that impacts the guilt space there, nature forces us to think of ourselves as benign neutral subjects within a serialized experimental space where now natural innocence and feeling that we've done something, making us less likely to act out there. And three, focus on policy simulations, refusal to our racial subjects as a form of psychological colonization, that's what they're putting ideological months resizability form of psychological colonization, emphasis on simulation, highlight exercise practices, ability, close practices, which are neutralized well by race conscious practices, if we win our arguments on passion, it means we solve internally to it, and then only internally to their model, which means if we win the endpoint side, there's no intrinsic value to it, three is the terminology and internally to the game, we're all winning the argument justifies the procedural violation in the face of scholarship rooted in colonialism. You should lose the 1AC due to her investment in racism, and four, if the 1AC says today is solely a question of competition vote nay to encourage decolonial research, that the completion of their own argument means that voting actively incentivizes research that sustains the violence of the European and states aspect for procedural fairness. Well, inexperienced transfers to white is attacking the slice ability to reproduce imperial control makes independent fact being possible. That's the third one. It's like the procedural fairness level of legal being solid by out here to compassion, separation, and societal power to respect for all humans. The Western fact of the social commitments is that the family is reducing the violence, constant, proactive, racial forces, assault, and things for justice. That's the word for class one. Archer false reporting evidence and impacting your defense against every special threat. Solve their offense and change their focus base, destroying U.S. internal turn their offense. Speaking in favor of the claiming and good ideas never being able to question it. What is inherent with the silliness of their model is demonstrated in the ground when they just try to get out of the extraction that we're not providing anything about. And that three are your term plus the Russian arguments with negatives. Three ideas between all the structural critiques, and four we saw predictability better on research of the plan and to the justifications, which are distinct from perhaps because there are reasons to vote after which you chose. And such bullshit stuff, it doesn't really make sense when they're reading cash, but one, and it definitely has an effect on who we are. We invest hundreds of hours of researching, and if it doesn't, and they just like to, we should be willing to continually validate them and give them success that they actively endorse the anti-black research, and all processes are non-started because the baby is definitely unique, especially in a world in which critical theory is criminalized in places like Arkansas, which means this is only investors first to speak about things like this. And if we got step one, it's not good. The distractor at the top, which proves your model is anti-black, should be rejected too, even if they win it's good in the abstract. Every argument is reasons why their specific forms of that injuries, why they actually reinforce anti-black is outside of the space to create all of their words, slogans, and our double treatment within their information stuff, because if it's treated as a site to create skills, we should make skills that aren't crazy.
7:15.
just the K. I guess extinction, stuff, framework, and links. Oh, just the K. Yeah, and then like extinction, framework, and then links.
Dropping the case indicts every portion of the critique, winning that predictions are bad or fail requires winning that those predictions are fallible. They link to every portion of cruel optimism. That's why they read a speculative alternative and desire the ballot, the absolves of war, which causes debilitating inequality for the most vulnerable people because wars cause countries to focus on the war instead of tending to their people. That causes extinctions of war goes nuclear through terrorist groups that control cities and nuclear silos. That's conceded, so you know that's true. And if you vote after endorsing something that's entirely a good idea because they've read no DAs to the plan, extinction must outweigh probability times magnitude is the only acceptable way to impact calc. Any other model justifies prioritizing some lives over others, which justifies genocide and more violence than death of 8 billion, would be the worst moral calamity in history. Homogenization is zero risk. We value everyone the same, which is the least racist model. They said favor ongoing violence as a non-starter because alternative moral theories are either tautological or rely on consequences themselves proven by their evidence past Canelli, which says that consequentialism is bad because it creates bad consequences. The K of calculation. 1, they also calculate. It's why the 2 and C explained impacts and made arguments about why the alt solves. 2, it's good. They sacrifice all practical reasoning for abstract and philosophical questions with no application. Actions are context dependent, so prefer a model that teaches us to make accurate predictions with inevitably imperfect informational alternative metrics, make specific mechanism questions irrelevant, illustrating the expertise necessary for argumentative agency outside of debate. Framework. Only evaluate plan desirability. Links must be unique and to the plan and also must be solvent. Their model kills fairness. The negative must be a burden which is under since debate is centered around the 1AC. The model allows a neg to cast doubt instead of disagreement, and then auto-neg valid because there's risk that the 1AC did a bad form of speculation without ever answering a single portion of the 1AC. That flips the burden of neg traps, and they can be sure that the K of desire links to every app for the apps to prepare for every possible critique of every idea on the 1AC. Yes, effective fairness is proven by how they also want you to value the debate fairly and follow speech times to do line-by-line. Fungibility is wrong. There's no scenario for why saying black people die in a nuclear war intensifies slavery and allowing nuclear war to happen makes black people more fungible as they're reduced to statistic to the targeted bombing of urban areas. But no link saying the federal government can prevent a civil war does not mean that we think the state can get rid of anti-blackness, but the idea that the state has ever done anything good is ahistorical. No link. The effort multiple scenarios for why the use of G is failing and needs fundamental reform. The US can be used contingently for good. Otherwise, they reject all governments which cause extinction because it can't provide food or electricity. Ontology is wrong. The authors agree that single instances of policy action can be good. There are multiple examples. 1, Dempsey versus Moore ruled that a trial of all black men by an all-white jury was unfair and that they ought to be granted due process. 2, Biden created robust regulatory reform and new economic opportunities for black Americans through the ARP. 3, Strata versus West Virginia reversed the ban on black jurors. Framed the ontology debate through 1AC solvency evidence. All their claims describe the status quo over the past, but don't deny that the 1AC alone would be able to solve civil war if Fiat is good. 1 is role experimentation. Policy experiments give debaters the knowledge and skills to challenge existing micropolitical structures regardless of profession. The process of finding optimal action is applied to personal activism. That's Connolly. 2 is critical thinking. Fiat enables debaters to process controversy from both sides, ensuring epistemic humility. Only this process enables debaters to properly question underlying assumptions and themes of the topic. That's Davig and McGee. You can vote after a model and to reject the procedural fairness violation over the course of the season, even if our scholarship is bad because links are not to the model. Objective research involves you link, you lose, arbitrarily inflating the app research written and sacrificing rigorous cost-benefit analysis over actionable change with theoretic purity. 2 is we need the plan is an intrinsic component of the 1AC's objective research. Our objective resource is good if the planned consequences are good. No subject formation. A is all causes, school, family, etc. 2 seems to be false arguments like sparking, warming good all the time, while very well knowing that these arguments are false. Sanitization. DA. Guilt dissuasion links fast. Voting negative allows you and them to feel like you've done your part without actually combating racism. We don't feel sanitized reading it while swinging the absolves by reading the racism DA and the alt counterplan. Fairness is not an internal link. It's the reason why we all come to debate, which is what they've explained is key to their offense. Racist scholarship is bad, but you can present the K as a counterplan plus DA, which solves their offense. If it really outweighs the F, we're impact turning math or incorporating theory to specific higher scenarios is best. Policy can be debated without underlying theories, but anything else is tautological nonsense. That Zach justifications are rep or distinction without any difference. Any qualifiers are arbitrary and should be rejected. Any word or phrase can be constituted as a justification. Clash is agnostic. That solves debate being assigned to produce skills because the skills we produce are bad. Judges would vote neg for the racism DA to the plan, which would result in our offense being eliminated. And then no repetition compulsion. 1 is no link. We don't believe Fiat makes the plan happen. 2, turn Fiat is good. Enables debaters to understand controversy from both sides, which diffuses dogmatism and enables action outside debate. That's Civic. 2, and the extinction link. No link. Our evidence. Their evidence assumes that extinction doesn't happen. We wanted to. That was done in unchanged ways. The all fails. It doesn't advocate for any political change or anything concrete. It saps social energy in favor of endless refers to violence, which means it can't solve any of their impact. The Zach card is wrong. It's the link of the mission. It just says that it doesn't solve all racism independently. It's debt protected, which means that people don't have to pay fines, although they can voluntarily pay them. Of course, it's enforced against everyone in banks, which is an example in what you see cross, and we said that all debt is included, but the robbing link is wrong. Our evidence is a simulation of UBI says inequality would decrease if there's backlash, and it's not unique. The fiat link, that was framework, and no sovereignty link. The evidence doesn't assume basic income, which doesn't prescribe motives for spending on inequality. The terror link, their evidence is wrong. Turchin is a study that says that current society is so unequal that it will inevitably cause civil war, and correlates violence to inequality while racism is at all costs. The porn and troping stuff. No consent link. BI is minimalistic. It's just a check in someone's bank while people can refuse if it's violent.
charge of that balance charge is link plus impact rate. When you're spent too long on primary probability to any one organization, which means that even in a world where you are ethically predisposed to accept institutional ways, arguments you should be willing to hear me out on this one, considering the 1 hour, considering all the 1 hour drops here. I'm going for institutional ways, I'm going to bring the institutional ways to the top. Future-oriented impact calculus privileges high magnitude, low probability scenarios, which includes urgent bodies and is terrible for the black and brown people. We're going to save lives tomorrow, do nothing. For the people that will die today, reject consequentialism, extend personality, also 3 continue more. The age universalism, their claims are based on planetary homogenization. It is a form of psychological warfare. This is something the assumption that the entire planet can under a single integer as part and parcel of the imperialism. All those subjects are already underway by research locally, but their impact calculus ushers to usher amounts of the umbrella of extinction when it affects by survival, which is the basis for the years. The second is temporality. The ongoing balance of the present is always ignored for a myth that future tragedy. You should arbitrarily shift your concerns and figure out the everyday ongoing balance of the years. The artist of evidence is fantastic. Almost question. Anti-blackness and colonialism have culminated in the market balance as an indicator of economic productivity. Futuristic policies only care about the impact calculus when white being is threatened, which perpetuates the cycle of colonial world order. You should be willing to sacrifice the future of white being in order to arbitrarily shift consequentialism towards black and brown people. See as urgent bodies. The ultimate internally turns consequentialism and solved by the alternative to focus on the everyday becoming of anti-blackness. They create a built-in bias reaction that favors the unlikely and depoliticizes the insurrectionary possibilities of the present by endlessly delaying the future moment, all in the name of securing white beings to charity. Destroys moral reasoning, which includes utilitarianism and consequentialism, because the backwards bias is that privilege future threats over current suffering, which is possible to the qualities. They say the opposite is going to try to go point to the historical is that the structural why there's 2 things here. First, that extinction is not unique, and if they only preserve a world that's continually anti-black and colonialism, is that solving structural balance is not something that they get access to. And second, is that the legal remains the plan of what they see. There's no reason that's why they get to waste on structural balance, because that's something that they only reinforce that post plan. They say privilege is something that we don't license genocide. They allow you to reinforce genocide balance against black and indigenous people because they're continually sidestep for the question of white being, which is the argument they continue to know what they are. That means that we're not arbitrarily asking you to prioritize a random group, or rather saying that black people are already undergoing microextinction should be prioritized over white people. They say real life consequences to reassure what means that even when the constitution is given the abstract means that you should arbitrarily shift that toward prioritizing the consequences of violence for black and brown people, which also argument the framework stuff. I'm not going for it. They can weigh the plan forward and continue to dispatch the impact we today, which means that 80% of the reason for negative only dispatch the means what actively works for black and brown people. Go to the debate now. I'm going for the antagonism that translators they have massively mishandled in the 1 hour. But with more panic about it and civil wars and misnomer that disavow the advent of race war. Actually being domestic disturbances in the center of state to populism, race to white economic anxiety, but is predicated on the loss of sovereignty, the call to make America great again, structurally animated by racial property logics, nationalists who deny outsourcing immigrant labor, are actually victims of economic precarity, the outgrowth of white supremacist racial murder, the terrorism of police insertion that describes is simply the extinction of racial care, i.e. genderism is not precipitated because of the experience of inequality amongst white workers, but it's actually here that come from racial and sexual confrontations. Think of the Illinois State Church and think of the Illinois State Church says that terrorists become left and right, and this is precisely the rationale that liberals use to call people terrorists. It means the actions of call to discipline abolitionists and discipline movements by telling them to follow the limits of society because they have granted status as equals. After the passage of UBI, this provides moral and economic teaching to police and money issued with the UBIs are funded by police departments to use their own funding while departments feel emboldened to criminalize insurgency and to prevent the terrorists and civil war. But they can't solve their own impacts because anything increase insurgency in the status quo and quell abolition movement that we think are good to solve violence against black and brown people. Level 1 means that it means that we're winning a case to the act. It means that we're turning there. Civil war goes to nuclear war scenario, and second is that within the impact calculus to me that means you prioritize the impact of the link over the app. They reinforce social violence against black and brown movements going on in the status quo. They say death penalty is wrong. It's definitely not. They haven't heard any evidence to me that says that death penalty under the 1AC would actually protect from the police. The context of 1AC is terrible for them here because they conceded that it's only they don't protect from private agencies and banks, which is not what our substance is talking about. If you read it after the rounds, that's like it's talking about new self under the way in which police go into communities and extract wealth from in the status quo because of racial capitalism, which they're like only increases because they allow UBIs to circulate within communities and then taken out by the police, which one removes any sort of link to they try to go for a while, but they saw structural violence that just gets taken away. And second is that it means it creates more money for the police to have in the first place. It increases their budget, which means that which fuels money for the black and brown people. They cannot go for it. They cannot go for black people who don't have to be the fines. Because our argument is that people do have to be the fines because it's either that or being arrested, which means they don't have a choice in that situation. All of the other stuff that does not matter. They can see the way the land, they can see the alternatives to refusal, which means that which is about acknowledging all weapons versus the black people are already forming to resist racial capitalism, i.e. refusing what they see is good to reveal worlds that are pushed up for free by Western knowledge making, which helps create moments of ongoing resistance, even if we're operating at high levels on the alternative. We don't need to, because we're running the impact calculus today, which means you prioritize the violence against black and brown people. We're running the base structurally causal on every single level, and that's not unique, which means the alternative is the only way forward. Even if you don't want to vote on it, you can just get voted on because linear decides the out, because they make the status quo worse for black and brown people.
It was more than 4, so just before. just set it for 4, because I think it was like 4:30 or something.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah, but like, it's fine. And then the last line.
Is it okay if I record the 2 a.m.?
Sorry.
Is it okay if I record the 2 a.m.? Just like the speech.
I can't hear you.
Is it okay if I record the 2 a.m.? Just like voice note?
Of course, you can always record your own speech. But please be loud.
Okay. Yeah. I'll be pretty loud. Okay. It's just the key. Good. Okay, cool. Case outweighs the impact was dropped throughout the debate, which means that it must be 100 civil war collapses, assurances, and deterrents. Drawing in great powers causes nuclear miscog, which causes the extinction that's marched in church and basic income solids, increases income and solves inequality, which is what I see clearly evidence. Extinction outweighs it's a terminal form of all violence. None other evidence is defense anti-extinction actually being bad. Just that thinking about extinction is counterproductive because it won't happen, and that is not in context of debate where dropped arguments must be true for any of it to function independently. Their model causes genocide. It justifies prioritizing the death of a group of people, prioritizing the one group of people over another, and ignoring the violence against people broadly, which is bad in serial killer logic that must be rejected. The AF, now they say probability, the AF is high probability is 100%, which means that they cannot go for any of the arguments about deprioritizing or exaggerating certain things. Universalism is wrong. Extinction is dehumanizing. It turns everyone into a statistic. It prevents people from living out any part of their lives, while extinction prioritizes everyone equally, which is the best possible metric. But extinction outweighs even without consequentialism, because if you want to prioritize black life, you should avert a short-term extinction scenario. Futuristic policy is good. It prioritizes black people here and now by voting the imminent death of every single black and non-black person. Even if you shift consequentialism, this is not close. There's 100% of 8 billion people dying, which must outweigh a low risk of very few people even dying, even if they win their impact arguments, because
those few people also die in a nuclear war, which means that they have no external offense. Now, backdoor device is wrong. It is solved by case debating and reading a DA to the AF about why our impact calculus is wrong. They did none of that throughout the debate, which means that you know that all of our predictions must be true. Otherwise, anything else allows them to just assert that something is biased without disproving that scenario. This is far worse because it entrenches abstract thought that never challenges underlying research practices. It can never create anything or it can never create anything or challenge things or promote critical thinking or promote any other scholarship. Now, extinction is unique. People are trying to live now, and even if there is violence against them, more violence is obviously still bad, and Little Rock should not make the choice of whether every black person should die, especially when they are trying to live now. Nuclear fear and need not deny every anti-apocalypse or structural violence now, which answers all their arguments about desensitization, but disavowing nuclear war as non-unique is whitewashing. When I said that news would target urban centers, ensuring a new, larger genocide on black people because it's unique because it's a swift radiation sickness on our limited healthcare will biologically, not just socially, mark black people for generations. It also increases the amount of violence because anything else is desensitizing. I'll answer the links here. The first one is about populism and terrorism. It is wrong because they have drawn that it is factually true in this instance. The church and card correlates 10,000 years of societal violence with inequality, while racism is just an all cause. The crackdown argument is wrong because basic income de-radicalizes people, and church says that the AF prevents violence and radicalization. They cannot go for the argument about how the AF has falsely presumed something. If we have actually won that inequality does cause violence, that is not economic rationalism. It's a specific study that is correlation, which does not require any sort of underlying theory. Our Zach card is also good on this. It says that the AF is a contingently good policy that does not need to defend a bottom line theory of anything. Things can be good without us knowing why. Now their Zach argument is wrong in step protection. They dropped examples from ontology that proves that legalism is good and works. That means that the rules against step protected basic income would be enforced. The empirics of Dempsey versus Moore, where they ruled that an all-white jury cannot try a black person in criminal court is a good example because it proves that police would be arrested. They would be prevented from actually exploiting or robbing black communities. Now, winning extinction outweighs means that the case outweighs every single link argument, regardless of how much they risk. Regardless of how much they risk, it is not close because they do not have a reason for why the link must outweigh the case, because the AF stops all of the violence that the link causes in the first place. It is all inevitable in the status quo, which means that it is not a reason for why the AF is ever bad, because you know that violence is far worse than any of the link arguments must happen now. Now, they've conceded that there's no subject formation because there are all causes like friends, family, religion, schools, etc. People read the warming good and spark, which proves that they don't actually have any attachment to their arguments, which means that there's zero risk of you can't vote on any residual link about subjectivity because they are all wrong, and the AF does not cause people to change their minds independently. We've said that heresy demands that we do not believe that the AF will happen because there's political barriers in the status quo, which means that all the arguments about all the arguments of subjectivity are zero risk. Now they say all the reps arguments are also broadly non-unique because people think about extinction now. People justify the state, and people think that the state is good. None of that is a reason for why the AF is bad because it happens now, and it's not a reason for why it's bad.
Anything else? No. Okay.
she made it up there in finals.
That's so bad. The sharks, do you get like bigger awards and things? Like, are there?
Yeah, final award, like, they get there's bigger as you go along. Final awards are like a bigger amount of plaque kind of thing. The semifinals is like, oh, the difference between semis and finals is like ridiculous. It's like crazy, ridiculous difference. It's very good. It's like a rally. It's like this rally, but like about this time. It's like with a mayor like his head out of it. But it's sort of cute, but like. They want like that.
util bad and racism bad.
Alright, small humans. We're all here. We're ready. Did you both confirm what you already know?
Yeah.
Okay. Really good job. Congratulations on making it to the quarterfinals. You get this little tiny bear as a reward. The decision is a 2-1 for the negative from LRC.
So I sat. I thought extinction outweighed. I thought that the 2 made a big mistake on going with the framework. To me, the 2 explicitly says that they get to weigh the case and that I'm evaluating the linear DA to the app versus their extinction scenario. I think that a lot of your util answers lose a lot of thrust from you when you haven't answered the case. And so I don't think that there are extinction scenarios, some speculative future, unlikely scenario to cause extinction. In fact, I think it's like a 100% thing that's going to happen because you dropped it. And I don't think that any of your link arguments, which I think the 2NR goes for too many, I don't think any of your link arguments outweigh that extinction scenario because I don't think you give the vast majority of your util bad arguments. You have some turns case arguments, but when I'm at the point that I think that the app solves their case 100%, the fact that they have any mitigation to the link arguments for me is sufficient to reduce the likelihood of the turns case argument, because the turns case argument relies on the link. And so the probability of it is still lower than the 100% risk of the case. And I don't think that your external impact to your links is comparable to the terminal impact that the app resolves. And so that's the top level thing. My main confusion, and this could just be me, so take it with a grain of salt, is that when you kicked framework into 2NR, I thought you couldn't win because the app's interpretation on framework was not that they get to weigh the plan. The app's interpretation on framework was that your links have to be to the plan and they have to have uniqueness. You kicked framework into 2NR and said, we will concede everything on framework, they get to weigh the plan. Their interpretation was not, we get to weigh the plan. So if the 2AR had stood up and said, you conceded framework, you do not get your links because they are not unique and they are not to the plan. I was going to say I would have voted out instantly. I did already, but I'm just saying, framework is not always we get the critique and we get the plan. Framework is like T. It has interpretations, and interpretations need things. And so, app, I thought this was a thing where, when they kick framework, that sounds like a thing that you should blow up in the 2AR. You know, they drop framework, so they need to have unique links to the plan. Any link that is about our representations, any link that is not about the action of a UBI no longer applies. Now, there's maybe an argument for why this debt collection link argument applies because maybe it's to the plan. But the thing is, you also said that links need to have uniqueness, which that link obviously doesn't because police already go into black communities and extract wealth from black communities. So it's you can just say that they don't get any of these link arguments because they're bad for fairness, they're bad for clash. I don't know. The way I think about critiques is from my understanding of critiques is I basically think about critiques exclusively through the lens of framework. And when you drop the case and they have an extinction outweighs argument that I think is pretty compelling, I don't think that your link argument outweighs it or turns it, especially when the risk of the case is 100% because you dropped it. So for me in the future, if I'm judging you going for a critique in the future, I would go for a framework in front of you. But, yeah, that's kind of it.
Yeah, before I get into how I voted, I agree with a lot of Zahir's to give, but I guess you don't get any of your arguments in a code app. But as it happened, I ended up agreeing with the 2AR that a nuclear armed war would be very bad, but I do think that the negative is winning a link that turns the case. It also has an external impact. So it's the turns case argument from the 2NC and 2NR that I don't think was really answered. It is only to the Civil War stuff. So something else that I wondered for a long time is if you could extend it clearly the secular stagnation impact, I also think that's an easy app win because their turns case argument is only about the rhetoric affiliated with Civil War, like the demonizing of left protesters, like BLM protesters. I just don't think that the 1AR and the 2AR extend the first impact that's in the legislation. But I do think if you did, it is totally separate from this linked turns case argument. But as it stands, like civil unrest is not economic, it's racial. Your evidence uses the same logic that calls BLM protests terrorists, that exacerbates tension, increases the likelihood of war. You know what the argument is. Part of the reason this argument took me a long time was just that I don't know for the negative what evidence this argument comes from. So, I also just don't know where some of the app arguments come from in terms of evidence. So another reason why it took me so long to figure out this debate is I'm trying to connect 2NR and 2AR arguments to cards, and it's very hard on both sides to do so. And then I do think that the NIC certainly wins the UBI extraction link, so that's a little bit of an external impact that they win. They have evidence about this, the app does not. Their explanation of credit and debt makes a lot more sense to me than the apps does. And also just I want to believe, my heart wants to believe the police will get arrested under the app's plan, but I just don't know how to make that logic add up given all the evidence that they've read and the lack of evidence on that question. And I don't think the way that you all are, I think you're assuming that the way that you wrote your plan text would result in that. I don't think it does because the police are not creditors in the way that you were talking about.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what's been said. I voted on the link turns case argument. I agree with Zahir that if the 2AR framework stuff, because I do think the 1AR is pretty good on that. And I do think the interpretation stuff we all just sort of mishandled in the 2NR. I also think the Olson evidence isn't necessarily greatly responded to sort of the extinction outweighs debating that is going on in the 2AR. Which sort of has me very negative, even if I think the turns case argument might not have 100% probability. I do think they're crushing on this UBI, the stats evidence, and the policing stuff. I agree with the uniqueness issues with it, but obviously the 2AR isn't really framing it enough for that. And yeah, I think the internal link for it's just not really responding to the 1AR or 2AR very well. I don't think your link defense is responsive enough to their specific evidence, and you don't have that card that's police will get arrested. Their card is at least maybe not unique, but does say there is an impact in policing / carciality stuff is likely to occur after.
Okay. How can the link outweigh the case if extinction is inevitable?
You should speak up a little.
How can the link outweigh the case if the app has 100% risk of an extinction impact?
Well, I think there's a pretty high risk of this internal link turn as well. And I also think they are winning just an external impact via some sort of policing or racial capitalism stuff. And at least for me, I think they're also ahead on some of this urgency framing with Olson. So if there is a risk of anything, I think voting that would solve some form of external offense that outweighs the minimal basically solvency deficit to the
Wait, but all of this is inevitable. If we've won an extinction impact, everyone is going to die. I don't understand.
I don't know if you're asking both of us question or just him.
Either of you can answer.
Okay, well, so I just think they have won. The app increases tensions and makes civil war more likely. That is just a regular case term.
Okay, the 1AR, I guess, said that Turchin cites empirics says inequality is the primary cause, while racism is an alt cause. Do you think that would have answered the Turn's case right now?
No. No, go ahead.
I mean, one, I think Zach's evidence, I read it, it's pretty good. It does have some like UBI fail sort of rollback type arguments that I do think are flips in like the 2 and C and 2 and R, but like they are pairing up with this terms-based argument. So like I do think they're like you do increase the pretty high risk of the same internal links that cause it. I do think there's really like a pure internal link.
Okay. I mean, the neg doesn't have defense to the scenario, so why does the internal link term matter?
Because I don't think you have defense substantially relatively.
What?
I think that they are, and I'm willing to say that I have something you said, I didn't know that it connected, but I don't think that the turns case argument from the 2 and C or the 2 and R was directly answered at all. So if they just win a case turn, they don't need defense to the impact.
But, like, the case turn doesn't mitigate the scenario. It's like,
The case turn says you make the scenario more likely.
but the scenario is 100% now.
And well, the link would be immediate and is like the same probability of your internal link.
Okay, so you thought that the link was 100.
Like it's like if you dropped an impact on the dissad and they dropped an impact on the app, like they're both very high. So internal link rates, I think they're accessing the same amount or an extremely high amount of their internal link, and any risk of external offense they knew of it.
I mean, like I could be missing a 1AR defensive argument, but in terms of this link and the turns case argument, I have no sovereignty link does not assume BI.
Okay.
Like that's what I have. If there were other parts of the 1AR that were supposed to apply to that, totally. Maybe I just need more judge direction for how they apply. But that's what I've written down there. So like that's what I give you credit for responding to in the 2AR.
Okay.
Do you have any more questions?
Sorry?
Do you have any more questions?
Not really, no.
Do you have any questions?
I just have a question for you on 2R. Do you think 2R is reasonable based on the levels of AR?
Yeah, I don't see why. Obviously, it's not like, oh man, you're killing one framework, because like, I thought the 1AR framework was really good. But like, yeah, I don't think it's like unwinnable. And I think that, again, just like in terms of how I conceptualize